What would you do if a perfect, much-needed job was stolen from you and given to the boss's unqualified girlfriend? My dad, a man of immense skill and quiet respect, was faced with this exact problem back in the late 1970s. His solution wasn't just payback. It was a chain reaction of consequences that a Hollywood writer couldn't have scripted better. This all happened when my family was living in a very tough part of town. The kind of inner-city area where gangs were just starting to take root. My dad, let's call him Arthur Finch, was a shop teacher there. And he was good at it. He was highly respected by every single one of his students because they knew, without a doubt, that he would not tolerate any of their nonsense. He was fair, firm, and he taught them skills that mattered. But being a teacher meant summers were a financially difficult time for our family, as they don't get paid when school is out. So finding summer work was a necessity. One year, an opportunity arose that seemed like it was sent from heaven. A special summer class was being funded at the school. And the job was so perfectly suited for my dad that the group funding it actually wrote the job description with him in mind. But it wasn't to be. The school principal, a man we'll name Warren Thorne, had other plans. He chose to hire his mistress, Miss Diana Hayes, to teach this highly specialized vocational class instead. This woman was an English teacher and had absolutely zero clue about the subject matter. But she was the principal's girlfriend. And that's what mattered to him. My dad was furious. And so was the group who funded the program. But the hiring decision was solely the principal's to make. In that moment, Warren Thorne made a decision born of pure arrogance. Completely unaware that in cheating my father out of a summer's pay, he had just sealed his own fate. Now, you have to understand a few things about Principal Thorne. He was married to a woman with significant wealth. And he was terrified of her finding out about his affair with Miss Hayes. You also need to understand a few things about my dad, Arthur. He believed in being practical. Over the years, he'd made a point of helping the school janitor, a great guy named Gus, with all sorts of maintenance jobs. Because of this friendship, my dad had keys to the entire school. He was also a hobbyist locksmith, so he had a knack for all kinds of locks. He always said that making friends with the janitor and the school secretary was the smartest thing a teacher could do. And the secretary, Brenda, was the school's nerve center for gossip. Thanks to her, my dad knew all about Thorne's affair and his peculiar method of hiding it. The school office had been built with a massive, old-fashioned bank-style safe. This is where Principal Thorne kept the expensive gifts he bought for his mistress, a mink coat, flashy jewelry, so neither his wife nor Miss Hayes's husband would discover them. And where did he keep the combination? Written down on a piece of paper, tucked inside his desk drawer. This move revealed Thorne's greatest fatal flaw, a towering arrogance that made him believe he was untouchable. He refused to memorize the combination, convinced no one would ever dare go through his things. Feeling irate not just for himself, but for the kids who were going to be stuck in a class learning absolutely nothing, my dad decided it was time to orchestrate a little revenge. My dad never threw anything away if it might be useful. And one day he'd rescued a life-size model skeleton from the dumpster after a biology teacher left suddenly. The principal had been freaked out by it and ordered Gus to toss it. Thorne had no idea that my father had quietly salvaged it. One evening, Dad used his keys to let himself into the school. He retrieved the combination from Thorne's desk. And with a few turns of the dial, the heavy door to the giant safe swung open. He then took the skeleton and carefully stood it upright inside the cavernous safe. He dressed the skeleton in the luxurious mink coat and draped its bony neck and fingers with the expensive jewelry. He positioned it perfectly. Then closed the heavy door, spun the dial, and left for the summer. The summer passed. The kids in Ms. Hayes's class learned nothing, as she couldn't demonstrate a single project and just told them to read the book. On the final day of the course, Principal Thorne and Ms. Hayes were preparing for a week-long trip together, which they'd both told their spouses was an educational conference. Ms. Hayes, being incredibly status-conscious, insisted on bringing the mink coat. Even though it was the middle of summer, she wanted to show it off. Together, they walked into the principal's office. Thorne, likely with a smug look on his face, knelt before the safe and dialed in the combination. The lock clicked, and he pulled the heavy door open. Instead of a coat and jewels, he was met by a grinning skeleton, draped in his illicit gifts, staring out from the darkness. He didn't scream. He made a choking sound and collapsed, gasping for air and clutching his chest. He had no history of heart trouble. But in that moment of pure terror, both he and his mistress thought he was having a massive heart attack. They called an ambulance. As they waited, Ms. Hayes, ever the opportunist, quickly snatched the jewelry off the skeleton and put it on herself. The mink coat, however, was left behind. I suspect my dad was just banking on giving Principal Thorne the scare of his life. He just wanted him to metaphorically crap his pants. But sometimes, when you set a plan in motion, you hit the bullseye in ways you never could have anticipated. The first domino fell at the hospital. Thorne's wealthy wife, Eleanor, arrived, frantic with worry. And there she met Ms. Hayes, who was wearing a very distinctive set of jewelry, a style Eleanor herself had asked her husband for on several occasions. She knew instantly that a simple teacher could never afford such a thing on her own. While Thorne was being treated, Eleanor, now cold with suspicion, drove to the school. In the chaos of the moment, a single, crucial mistake was made. The heavy safe door was pushed shut, but not locked. Eleanor walked into her husband's office and pulled open the door. She never saw the skeleton. Gus, my dad's friend, had discreetly removed it after the ambulance left. What she saw was her dream coat, hanging inside the safe. The entire house of cards came down. The principal kept ranting about a skeleton. But with the evidence gone, the school board thought he was delusional. Worse, his affair was now public knowledge. A clear violation of the morality clause in his contract. He was fired. His wife divorced him. And because she could prove his adultery, he wasn't entitled to any of her money. His former secretary, Brenda, even testified against him about the affair and the money he spent. He lost his job, his wife, and his pension. Eleanor got it all. The fallout for Ms. Hayes was just as brutal. She tried to lie to her husband, claiming the jewelry was a prize from a best teacher contest. He didn't buy it. He divorced her and, in a move that was rare for the time, got full custody of their children. citing her infidelity as a bad influence. She was fired from her teaching position. Now, you might be thinking that legally. The jewelry was a gift and Eleanor Thorne had no claim to it. And in a normal world, you'd be right. But the school board launched an audit and discovered that Principal Thorne had used school funds to buy the coat and to pay for his educational trips, which led to his arrest for fraud and embezzlement. In the subsequent legal proceedings, the judge ordered Ms. Hayes to surrender the jewelry to the principal's ex-wife as part of the settlement. My dad felt this was exactly what they both deserved. He was a man who deeply believed in fairness. He wouldn't have done a thing if they hadn't taken a good job away from him. And more importantly, if they hadn't cheated those kids out of a summer of learning real, tangible skills. He certainly enjoyed having a different principal the next school year. In the end, the story serves as a potent reminder that arrogance and deceit sow the seeds of one's own destruction. Thorne and Hayes built their own prison of lies. And my dad simply provided the key. So I have to ask, do you think the consequences they faced were perfectly fitting for their actions? Or did my dad's revenge go too far? Let us know what you think in the comments.